Welcome to this section on contracts. I'm student attorney Quentin Hale, and I'll be walking you through this portion of the presentation. I'll start off covering some introductory basics. Then we'll talk about some helpful tips for contracting. And then we'll go over some common types of contracts that you might see in your business. After I'm done, hopefully you'll have a better understanding of contracts. First, let's start with the basics. A contract is an agreement between two people. It's as simple as that, really. This agreement creates an obligation, a legal obligation between the parties. Contracts can be verbal as well as written, but you really probably want to be writing yours down, and in some cases, you may be required to have a written contract. Lastly, a contract serves as a memorialization of the agreement. It seals the deal, so to speak. It helps to provide clarity, and it gives us a physical record to work with. Now, I want to give you some tips that will help you whenever you're working with contracts. They'll help you be a better drafter, help you be a better reader, and they'll help you be more sophisticated when you're dealing with others. The first tip is to use clear language. Don't get caught up in legalese or fancy wordplay. Keep it simple. This will help you avoid misunderstandings and miscommunication. It makes it more likely people will deal with you because they can actually read your document, and it may potentially help lower drafting costs. Second, keep in mind the type of contract you're dealing with. I'll review common types of contracts in a moment, but you can really save yourself a lot of writing, negotiation, and hassle by including the terms you do need and excluding the ones you don't. This will also help you have a more focused and useful document. Next, a contract is a handshake. I heard a story about how the world's foremost prosecuting attorney, Joe Jamale, once won a case in Texas by using the slogan, "A deal is a deal, and a handshake is a handshake." So this isn't some lofty document. Just think of it as a handshake, a deal between two people. This next tip is about as simple as you can get, but it's absolutely critical. Always read the contract. So simple, yet so necessary. How many times have you scrolled down to the bottom of the terms and conditions to hit accept without actually reading the document? Please read the contract. Next, make sure the right people sign the contract. If the contract is the seal of the deal, you need to make sure the right people sign it. You also might need to consider the structure of legal entities like LLCs to find the right signatories. And lastly, the internet is a double-edged sword. Be careful of what you look for and what you find. There can be helpful documents and handy tips, but there can also be complete nonsense. This is especially the time to read the contract. Now, let's go over some of the common types of contracts you might run into. This first one is called an organizational document. These documents govern how a business is organized and managed. Common terms in these documents include divvying up the percent ownership, allocation of profit and loss, member voting rights, and terms governing the management of the business. Next up is an agreement with an independent contractor. These agreements are for a specific service. Common terms include the time of performance and costs of services. Then we have an agreement for the sale of goods. These are contracts for the sale of goods at an agreed price. Contract terms can include the price, the method of payment, as well as quantity of goods. Lastly, we have confidentiality agreements. These agreements do what they say. They protect confidential information. Well, those are some of the main types of contracts out there in the world, so keep in mind how each one of these types affects your drafting. You don't need member voting right terms for an LLC in your contract for the sale of some goods. Well, that's all I have for you today. I want to thank you all for listening, and I hope you learned something about contracts. Thank you.